My name is Hervé Touati. I was the founder and CEO of E.ON Connecting Energies. We are talking about the world of basically the new energy world. We're talking about a world where you are starting to build a business and you are growing it quite quickly. It's what you want to achieve. So it's why the first step is more to grow and explore and find where the business actually is. And then the second step to put your house in order in such a way that you are more effective at the things you have decided to do. It's important to do it as soon as you have observed a certain amount of profitable repeatability. So when you reach that point, and hopefully you reach that point relatively quickly, then it is the time to optimize. Once you have figured out the customer segment, the products, the value proposition, the process actually that will lead you to growth in a profitable fashion, it's where you need to focus and make sure that you do that in a very organized way. So those are the two phases. Once you know in which direction you want to go, then it's time indeed to invest on how to organize your house properly. I think there are different elements to your question. First is that you would like to have the information presented in such a way that you can compare when you have different opportunities to invest your capital. And most organizations at the end of the day are capital constrained. You would like to make sure that you have the right way of framing an investment opportunity that allows you to compare it with others. So I would say the first issue is often a problem because different teams have different ways of framing an investment opportunity. It's not always very standardized, especially when you grow a business very quickly. And to give you an order of magnitude, I grew a business from 0 to 600 people in a matter of roughly 2 years. So when you do that, you usually do not have the time to unify your processes. So that is certainly an issue. The second element is whether you actually trust information that is provided in individual investment opportunities. In terms of trusting the data, I would say when you have a doubt, you're not completely sure, what you typically do is that you ask your teams to analyze a little bit more, which is something they don't like to do, obviously, but moreover, it's something that costs you money and creates delays. So it's more an issue of time and an issue of cost. Basically, indeed, you prioritize on quality. You don't want to invest on the wrong thing because you have the wrong information. So you are ready, not happy, but ready to invest the time and the money to actually get the right result. So information, there's two aspects to information. Maybe there is a simpler aspect, but a lot of companies are neglecting it, is to follow a principle that computer scientists like to put forward, is to have the same information stored once in a system. And we all know how it works in large organizations. It's rarely the case. But if you look at investments, it's not actually happening in most situations. So you get the same project that may have a life of 5 or 10 years before, starting the first year, people thought about the project to the entire development period, the construction period, and then the operation and maintenance period. During the lifetime of that project, the project's information changes hands many, many times. And of course, we don't know what is, after 10 years, what were the assumptions taken 6 years before, because we don't know exactly which version of what document we need to look at. So simply storing the information in one place in a very rigorous fashion saves a lot of time and money. And very few companies do that. Again, they do that for SAP type of applications, but not to manage a portfolio of assets. So there's a lot of value in systems that are able to provide such information. Now, once you have that, you get a level of trust on the information that you have that is much higher. Because you know it's stored once, you know it's there, and most likely it's true. If you store it 5 times in 5 different locations, you have no idea which version you should use, especially many years after the information was stored. People have changed jobs, it's very difficult to reconcile. So the business intelligence you can get from the information you are supposed to have in your own facilities, in your own IT systems, is considerably enhanced once it is stored properly, once, and not duplicated many times. And the type of business intelligence could be benchmarking, could be insight on what part of the business is generating more interesting opportunities. There's a lot of things you can do with proper information at your fingertips. But the first thing you need to do is to store it properly. And often businesses do not have the discipline of doing this. So it's why software like Mercatus, I believe, could provide a lot of value to companies. First, because it reduces the cost. It reduces the time to get access to the information. It increases the quality of the information. But also that once you have achieved all this operational improvement, you can get more intelligence out of the information provided by the system. And that has a lot of strategic value on top of the operational improvements. So the way I would look at Mercatus is a bit of the SAP, if you want, of large asset investments. And so you get with a tool like Mercatus operational benefits that you can compare with the cost of the system, and the operational benefits are very tangible. It's about, indeed, speed of access to information. It's about cost, how many people that you need to employ to manage the data. And it's about quality, because if you are able to store information only once, as opposed to replicating it in many different places, the information you get at your fingerprints is much more likely to be correct. Yeah? So those are the operational benefits. On top of that, the question is, what else do you get? I think that by itself is probably enough to justify the investment, but the advantage or the additional benefits are more strategic. That is, you have a better view. You spend a lot less time trying to figure out which data you need to use. Everything is organized the same way. So it's easier for you to compare different investments and to figure out where to allocate your capital, because things are done the same, indeed. So you compare apples to apples. So those are very important benefits. And even if you step one step higher and you look at where you should allocate and grow your business moving forward, this information allows you to do strategic analysis. Not just comparing where to allocate your capital, project versus projects. It's also allowing you whether you should go in this country or that country, in this technology or that technology, because you get data that are comparable at any level. So this is a benefit I see. I think it, of course, depends in which business people are operating. But if you look at wind and solar in particular these days, prices have reduced very considerably compared to a couple of years ago. So when you basically observe such dramatic cost reductions on the objects that you are putting on the market, on the product, on the utility scale, wind and solar farm, your margins reduce. And if you don't do anything on your G&A, on general administration costs, at some point the business is going to be hurt in terms of profitability. So we are reaching the point where G&A costs start to be material. And as a consequence, companies should start to look at ways to use much more effectively that particular part of their staff. Yeah. So this is why such a tool is so important, because as wind and solar in particular are getting more and more competitive, you need to work on every dimension of your cost structure. Not just the cost of the wind turbine, not just the cost of the panel installation, but also the cost of actually putting the numbers to figure out in which project you need to invest the money. So it's why a tool like Mercatus is so important to keep developers at a level of profitability and competitiveness that I'm sure they want to be at. Yeah.